It was a pretty typical day. We were pretty busy. Then we kind of hit a dead spot. And Amber, our supervisor, said, if it continues like this, one of you girls can go home. And then it got busy again.
The weather reports that we received early morning, we were still dealing with the tornado that had hit our county the day before. And we're getting reports in on what happened there.
We knew that there were storms coming that day. They had told us several times over the news and through our safety system. They had told us several times that we had bad storms, to be prepared, get your flashlights ready, all the fun stuff.
I had arrived there that morning around 6 to be induced for labor. And I was upstairs in the labor and delivery.
I was thinking that there's going to be tornadoes. On those, there's always 3 or 4 days a year that tell family and friends and employees that there's going to be tornadoes. It's just a matter of where they hit and when.
I am very weather aware because my home was hit in the May 3rd tornado, and I have a window with a wall facing the way they always come.
My department kind of makes fun of me because I talk about being on the Getner and I watch the weather and I know all the terms, and because I lived through May 3rd, 1999. So I'm kind of a freak about tornadoes.
Didn't think anything about the weather throughout the whole process that morning. Didn't really know what was going on. I didn't really pay any attention to the TV as I was, in labor and stuff.
All the information we had been given from our local National Weather Service and storms prior to, they were within an hour of their prediction time. So we knew from 1 to 3, I knew was very, very high risk. A lot of local news stations stuff were reporting 2 o'clock on, and we were preparing down at 1 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock, we got in front of a radars and started watching. Storms started to pop up, and one of them west of Newcastle started to look a little worrisome to me.
It is coming up very quickly, and it's just west of Newcastle. It's southwest of Moore. It's lifting to the east, northeast.
And our line of work in healthcare is time is of essence. The more notification we get, the better. You can't replace time.
At 1:34, my baby, Kellen, was born. Went through the whole normal process of everything, welcomed the baby and talked to him and all that kind of stuff, loved on him. And shortly after that, after they finished up with everything, my doctor had left and my family had came in and was visiting with us, and that's when I heard the code black warning come across, and my nurse came in the room with a wheelchair and she's like, I'm gonna leave this in here just in case we have to go take shelter.
And we thought, of course, that after the millionth time that we had drilled this, that it was just going to be another one of those things that we were doing for safety of the patients and everybody concerned, but that there would be no damage.
This is not the time to turn your back. You need to be making calls to people. You need to be texting them and letting them know that another significant round of severe weather is underway and developing in the Oklahoma City metro area right now.
About 2:33, we called the alert stage, which is that's usually what is equivalent to a city sounding their sirens.
Okay, again, Michael, looks like right now it's crossing I-44, and again, I'm at Southwest 149th, and it's hard to tell with the stream the motion of the walk line, but this thing is really, really spinning out as it's crossing or just west of I-44. So
get in your shelter, move your patients. And that was about 7 or 8 minutes before the National Weather Service had issued a tornado warning.
This storm right here, I want to mention.
A minute or two after that is when Moore sounded their sirens. So we got about an 8-minute head start,
100 knots,
which helped us there.
South 164th, that's 311. North 12th and Western 312.
Sky News 9.
Okay, tornado.
Sky News 9.
Moore 318. You guys in Moore, be ready. Max
we
West
got a tornado.
317.
Bob Mills, Sky News 9. Jim Gardner.
That's right.
Coming down.
You're looking at it right there. It's going to be northwest of it. It's going to be rightly northwest of Newcastle on the west side of 44 here. You can see it starting to develop.
Our safe spot was the cafeteria, and we started putting our visitors down there.
The code black alert came across, And so I told my family, my parents, my in-laws, my sister and her kids, like they needed to go down to the cafeteria and take shelter, that we would be down there soon.
Now fully on the ground, Gary. The funnel is fully on the ground.
I think it really hit home for me that it was coming when the alert was called over the intercom. War Medical Center is under alert. And like I said, I've been here 13 years and I've never heard that call, ever.
My God, get below ground.
And you just think, oh my goodness, this is what we got to do, guys. You know, it's here upon us. We've got to take cover now.
The meteorologist said that you need to either be underground or out of the way, and that this is going to be a deadly tornado. And it was, I mean, the picture of watching the tornado move, it was just like it was barely even moving, but it was so big and it was headed right for the hospital.
Dr. Hines told me, he said, Julie, I think we're going to get a direct hit. We had no power, and he had an iPad with an application that was showing us where it was.
My husband kept looking at his phone and I kept looking at my phone, trying to figure out what's going on. You know, where's this at? Is it coming towards us?
It was very loud in there. There were a lot of people, and it was a little bit chaotic. And I got up on a chair and kind of raised my voice at people and said, I need everyone to calm down so you can hear instructions. We got everyone on the floor and we gently picked up our patients and put them down on the floor.
It's about ready to cross Western here from the southwest. You can take our stream. It's right in front of us. The tornado is a very, very violent tornado. Like Val said, this is May 3rd, 1999, all over again. It's almost going down the same street that it did before. Okay, Gary, look at our stream. My goodness, this is an extremely violent, this is a killer tornado. And like you said earlier, if you're not below ground, you will not survive this tornado, Gary. Let's give a safe room. This is a killer tornado. The motion is amazing. Look at the motion here, Gary. It's crossing Western.
Oh my
it's about
God.
200 yards west of Western, Gary.
It started about 3:17. We got a code yellow, and I was up front in the lobby pulling people out of their cars. They were trying to park under the awning out front, and they were in shock. I think they had seen the tornado and thought if they parked under there that there would be safety. And so I got a hold of them. I opened their car doors, and as soon as I did that, they kind of realized they were in trouble, and we put them inside, and Debbie still told them where to run. And at 3:17, Shane and I guess David Whitaker decided to call a code yellow, which is a disaster alert.
It's probably the single most hardest thing I've ever had to do in my professional life.
I was scared and nervous and wanted just to be in a safe place at that time, and so she helped me get into my wheelchair and got me downstairs safely.
We had a labor patient who was in active labor and had already had an epidural. So our plan for that was that that person would go with her nurses back to the C-section room in the back area of our department.
Dr. Early asked me to go upstairs with him because he wanted to check and make sure we didn't have anybody else upstairs, and we did. There was a mother, soon-to-be mother in labor, and her nurses and the nurse manager, Allison, had stayed there the whole time with her and never did leave her.
We just kind of said, well, here's our decision, this is what we're going to do, and we're just going to get all the towels and blankets out of the warmer that was in there and put them on the patient, as many pillows as we could pile around, cover ourselves up, and hope for the best.
I climbed down out of my wheelchair into the floor with my nurse, and me and her huddled with my baby, and we just prayed, and my husband sat behind me with my other son, and they just, ducked their heads as well, and everyone was just praying.
And then we began to hear banging sounds on the building.
Large and violent tornado.
It's moving right toward Interstate 35 also.
It's just a monster. It's a half mile, every bit of a half mile, and again, probably an EF4, possibly even stronger.
It was very loud. It blew open the big, heavy steel and wood safety doors. It blew them in backwards.
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have a newborn baby, my almost 3-year-old's here, you know, my whole family's here, and we may not survive this. And, you know, how do you do this?
It's hard to explain the way it feels. It's not a freight train running through your place or anything like that. It's just change in atmospheric pressure, big changes. And you feel that.
My ears were making a really loud popping and high-pitched noise. You could hear it just crashing into the building, and I thought it was going to hit us pretty good because it sounded like the May 3rd tornado, but a little bit more of a grinding sound. And I think it was because it was moving a little bit slower.
I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it was just flying around everywhere. You can just see it like swirling in the room. My heart just, I think, stopped for a minute because I was like, you know, are we going to be sucked out of here? What's going to happen?
I started praying extremely loud. I was talking to God pretty loud that moment, and I said, you know, we're here, you know we're here. And I kept saying that over and over again. You have to take care of us, you know, we need you.
There was wind and debris just coming through the hospital sideways, and I could hear them screaming, but I think it was mostly fear. They didn't know what else was going to happen.
Continues, the motion is very fast, it's very violent, and again, Gary, it's completely wrapped up in rain and debris. It's a big, dark, black area of debris.
Bonnie Stevens was to my left, Cindy Popejoy was across the bed on the other side, and the patient was in the middle. And we were just all holding on to everybody because, you know, we thought, well, 3 or 4 people attached to each other are going to be a whole lot better than one person.
As you hear it starting to hit, you know at that minute that you are going to be either pulled out. I told everyone to lock their arms in their pods, so we all locked arms in case it did start pulling us, that we could hold on to each other.
Us girls locked arms through the pillows and blankets and over our head. We kind of crouched down and we just started praying. We prayed out loud, and other people were saying, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, we're going to make it.
And the next thing we knew, the wind sound got loud, like a really rushing wind. And the operating room door that we had closed blew open, and the wall opposite us went away. We were safe.
I mean, I had a newborn baby who I wanted to have a life, and a baby, you know, my other son, I wanted them to have a life, and, you know, worrying about them and, you know, make sure they were safe was the biggest thing.
It's about ready to cross I-35. I'm at 134th in Moore, looking off to my south at this monster, at this absolutely killer tornado.
The command center is watching, and it's total silence. You can just hear a pin drop. And with all the expertise, the knowledge that's in that room, the leadership, there just wasn't a word that we couldn't put it into words. I mean, everybody just fell silent.
That was a medical building. The Warren Theater, the medical building's at the top center of your screen. That's where the medical building was.
Just with my knowledge of that building and the type of structure it is and the research I've done, I knew that it couldn't be good. You know, I was expecting a mass loss of life and, you know, fatalities that we've planned for a long time. And so it was sad.
There is complete destruction, tears in people's eyes as they see this scene. It is absolutely an amazing scene.
I couldn't get through on cell phones, and that was just the scariest part, just not knowing. So.
Car hoods and full tires and fenders made it inside the structure, inside executive suites. Hoods impaled in the side of the building. Kitchen sinks from 200 yards away in the residential area had been ripped out of houses and stuck into the side of the building on the second floor. It's tough to describe, stuff that you would see.
I think it was a miracle that we all walked out of there. It covered us in a lot of insulation and dirt and dust, but no one got hurt at all.
When you're a nurse and then you're also a manager, you do think about everyone else a lot. I mean, that's your job. You take care of their safety and their needs. You have a large family, and you take care of that, and that's your focus.
I climbed back up into my wheelchair, and they proceeded to try to push us out. We went down one hallway, and there was, the wall was completely down. You couldn't exit the building at that entrance. So then they turned us around and took us down another hallway, and just as we were trying to walk out, there was, walls had fallen down, ceiling tires down, just debris everywhere. And so we came to one part where the wall had caved in, and they were like pushing it out of the way to get people by. And
Finally, Bob from surgery said, this way, and they had knocked a wall down to get everybody out, and we went out back by the post office on the east side of the building, and that's where everybody came out, and we were to go over to the Warren Theater and stay there.
And as we found a way out of the building, and it was difficult to push wheelchairs even through the halls because of the ceiling tiles and the different debris on the floor, and then to kind of lift them out of the thresholds that we were coming out of, and maneuvering through the parking lot with upside down cars.
Whether people were on the sidewalk in front of the IMAX or on their way over or inside, it was like the hospital was functioning without a hospital. It just kept going.
And it's like we functioned without a hospital, but we had to make do with what we had, so.
I appreciate them, and I'm amazed at how they handled themselves in such a professional way that we all walked out of there. I have a deep appreciation for them and what all they did to save their patients.
The hallway was pitch black in the IMAX, and to come down there and see each person and see what they needed, if they were in pain. We helped every one of those moms breastfeed their babies, which is just kind of amazing and weird that it worked out that way, because usually babies are sleepy and not always cooperative, but they were very cooperative. We were lucky.
I just walked out, and it looked like a bomb had went off. And it really felt like a scene you'd see in a movie, people coming out of something and just see destruction everywhere. It felt so unreal.
It was one of the most surreal moments of my life, I would say. Just kind of emerging there, not knowing what you're gonna see, and then seeing, it looked like a bomb had gone off.
I really had never seen anything that bad when I looked at the front and saw all those cars piled up there. One of the engineers that I guess looked at the hospital said it was probably a real blessing, because those cars were from the other neighborhood and they were in the debris ball, and when the actual funnel hit the front, it dispersed it up and over us a little bit. That's probably what really helped keep the interior intact.
We talk so much about how important it is that when people come and have a baby, that they have a good experience. And I think we still were doing that. We still were trying, even though we were in the IMAX and they were covered in rain and dirt, and it wasn't what we usually provide, but we still were very much trying to help them feel cared for and protected and safe, and like they had someone that was taking care of them.
To this day, amazing that all 250 of us made it out alive, because I really didn't think we would, So it's a godsend, and he had his hand on us. That's all I can say.
Everything was flattened. There were no trees. There were no houses. On the outskirts of the tornado path, there were houses that were kind of standing, or the middle of the house is standing. There was nothing standing. There was nothing.
it's amazing what those things can do, those tornadoes, how much damage they can bring. They're powerful. I never want to experience that again.
As I've thought about it later, it is amazing to me that our building stood through all of that, because across the street, everything was gone. Houses, gas stations. I mean, it was amazing that we were untouched, essentially unscathed, but the building took the hit for all of us.
The day that they did destroy the building was an emotional day. I remember showing up and seeing my doctor. She had came back, and my nurse was there, and then just even people in my doctor's office, her medical staff were there. So just seeing everyone was emotional, and to know that we all made it out safely and that we all took cover in the same place.
Just a big thank you to everybody and all the staff that were, heroes in the building that day.
Everyone in the entire hospital was amazing, and I could not be more proud to work with every one of them. It did not matter if they were volunteers, if they were housekeepers, if they were from dietary services, if they were nurses or doctors, or any department. Every department all worked together, and the harmony was amazing.
The care committee is for catastrophic events, and then we also do something at Christmas for Christmas families. So people that have a need at Christmas time and don't have enough money to buy presents, we help with that, or a catastrophic event anytime during the year. We had a little bit of money in the fund, but nowhere near the scope of what we needed to take care of the staff for this. It has been amazing, not just within our facility, but within our state, within our nation. We've had so many donors stepping forward and donating to helping our employees get back on their feet, not just the ones at Moore Medical, because the ones at the Porter campus and the ones at the HealthPlex campus, some of them lived in Moore too, and they lost homes just the same way. So as donations kept pouring in, we got to keep giving money to these people.
It really helped at a time that we really needed the money, and I just want to say thank you to all the donors who did help us with that, because without them, we wouldn't have had it, and been in a lot worse shape.
Throughout all of this, you can lose all of these materialistic things. You can lose all the stuff in your house, and your whole house can be gone. But the one thing that you need to remember, always, is build on the relationships. The relationships are the most important things in anyone's life.
I can't explain how we feel about Moore Medical Center, and that's an emotional thing in itself. It's not just the people there, but it was the way we did our daily lives. It was the way we cared for our patients. It was the intimate group that we were, and it was that way from the beginning.
I just take each moment and grab hold of it and try to live it to its fullest, because you don't know what tomorrow promises.